Welcome to the Great Things LLC podcast, the show that celebrates people who are making an impact on the world, people creating conscious businesses that are in alignment with their own personal values. Each episode shares the wisdom, experience, and the intentions of those that are following their dreams. Visionaries who have chosen a different path, found their purpose, and create joy and abundance while helping others. Whether you're already a trailblazer or still searching for your path, these stories will inspire you towards being the best version of yourself. Hello, friends. Welcome to the third episode in the third season of the Great Things LLC podcast. My name is Josh Meter. I'm your host, and today I have with me a very special guest that I'm excited to share their story. This is Dani Fiore of Empowered Music Educators. So welcome, Dani.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Dani, we're going to jump into the story, but before we get started, I just want to give people a little bit about your background, because what we're talking about today is that you've created this amazing, inclusive, awesome music studio and business, but we want to start kind of back where you started. So when you're a little person, where did that love of music come in for you? Was there anyone who kind of fostered it or encouraged it for you?
That's a really good question because neither of my parents are musicians, and but what they did was there was always music on in the house. So it was, I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s kind of, and it was like where you had the TV on in one room and the radio on another. It was like chaos, right? But so I was always surrounded by music. They had MTV or VH1 and then, Z100 or, one of the kind of New York, New Jersey radio stations going constantly. So I think I just absorbed all that stuff like a sponge, and for whatever reason, it really excited me. And I would do kind of these, mini performances as kids do. But I think for me, it felt more real, and I wanted it to be more real. So who knows, maybe if that's where the passion first started. But as far as encouraging that, my parents were great about encouraging me to get involved in music, even though they weren't, which is, I don't know how common that is. A lot of times, we want to divert our kids to the things that we like and or that we're involved in, and they were like, okay, cool, you're into music, and they definitely helped me with obtaining different instruments. And even when my interests would change, I think I picked up, oddly enough, a bass guitar first, and then I want a six string, and then it was I want drums, and that's where I finally found my true passion, my first real love in rhythm and drumming. So
okay, I was curious where the drumming came in. I know that is a big part of what you do, and I think your story is actually not that uncommon. A lot of parents that don't have musical ability, I think it's kind of scary for them to encourage their kids because they don't know how to support them. So lovely that you had supportive parents in that. Now, did you participate in school musical? Was it outside? Was it just kind of lessons? What was your early days?
yeah, it was all in school. Actually, this influences mostly in school. I'll get to that. This influences the way that I teach because I did not have private drum lessons. I learned everything in school, which is for like a school band director, they've got kind of the basic knowledge of all the instruments. They can't really go deeper depending on what instrument they play. And I was not surrounded by drum mentors. I just wasn't. So I learned how to read notation in school, and I was just so into it, and my friends were so into it that we learned on our own. And we would listen to, CDs or the radio and try to just copy note for note exactly what everybody was playing. And my friends who were better than me, they would get it first, and then I would learn it from them. So, I really have a very self-taught mindset, self-taught background for the most part. I had a mentor later on. I took vocal lessons for a short period, and my teacher in Jersey, her name's Jody Joseph, and she, I think, had a really large impact on the way that I teach now, because it was very much like she was also not, to my knowledge, not classically trained. I don't think she had a college degree in music or anything, but she was just so passionate about it and so very talented. And she taught in a way that was not just about like, let's show up and, read the page. It was like, let's sing about how we're feeling, and let's learn about how, how to get our feelings out by writing a song about it. And I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So, between Jody and Jerry Romano was my other mentor in school. He was my band director, another above and beyond kind of person, where it wasn't just about, you're my student and we're going to play and go home. And he really took his time with me to get me excited about other things outside of school band. He was like, why don't you check out, drum and bugle corps? He would pass me CDs like all the time. Why don't you listen to this new jazz CD? So we formed a bond and a relationship around that was, again, deeper than just kind of an academic surface relationship. And both of those mentors in my early days really informed how I teach and how I perform now.
Yeah. Well, shout out to not only those mentors, but those teachers that really install the passion and the excitement, not just the academic learning.
100%.
So let's fast forward a couple years, so that there is some point that you got into the music profession from an educational standpoint, and that's leading up to where we're going. So, just briefly, where did you start teaching? How did that come about, and what did it look like for you at first?
I was 17 and my parents, I think it was my parents had a friend who had a kid who was just a little bit younger than me and had just started playing guitar, and it was like, would you want to, have him over and teach him a couple things? And that was it. Like, that was my first experience of showing someone else how to play an instrument that I really barely knew how to play. But again, it's that, like, just leading with whatever little knowledge that you have, even if it's just a little bit more than the person behind you. So that was a great experience, and I just did that out of my house once a week. And then I think it was like, well, if I can do this with one person, I can do this with a couple people. And I started reaching out a little bit, and to be honest, I don't remember how, because this was pre-social media. So I really am not sure, but I started making contact with folks, and I was just driving. Once I got my driver's license, I would put my guitar in the car, drive around to different students' homes, and teach them right there in their house. And that's how it all got started.
I love that one. Just being of close to your generation, a little previous, is the prior to social media, how things conducted. It's the, kids today won't understand that.
Yep.
Oh, so then you eventually started teaching, and you're in the central eastern part of Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg. So you were teaching as an instructor in a music school, but then something really unfortunate and ugly happened. So if you want to tell us where the genesis of that came from to get us here today to Empowered Music.
Yeah, so this is the birth story of Empowered, and I'm really happy to talk about it. I was at a private arts school here in Central PA for 5 years, and really got a chance having a home base to build up my business. Driving around to students' homes is is one thing, but having somewhere, a collective with other teachers, other students, and a brick and mortar building, a place to be, it was a really good grounding for me to actually grow. Somewhere in that 5 year mark, it was actually in April, there was an incident of harassment. It was actually an incident of anti-LGBT harassment from one of the other members inside the organization. And I thought, okay, I can handle this. This happens to our community quite a bit. It hasn't happened to me like this, but all right, we'll go to my mentors. We'll figure out how to handle this. And it really just didn't get handled well. The leadership wasn't exactly set up to handle it. And as it escalated, I had to figure out another situation. I had to figure out how to get my students and myself somewhere that we could still do this really important work that we've been doing for the last 5 years. this was very important, and it was, not to be squandered. This is, again, we're going deep, so I wanted to take care of these students, and myself, because I put a lot into it as well. So I just started reaching out to other schools in the area to see, okay, how do you guys feel about this? I'm coming in, I got students, or is this an inclusive environment? Are we going to be safe here? And unfortunately, none of the other institutions around here were set up for what I needed, and that was a really scary time. There was a couple months over the summer that were just, my whole livelihood was, I could just see it crashing down. Not only my livelihood and taking care of my own family, but my students, my students' well-being, their attachment to music, and was all coming crashing down, and I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah, I can't imagine the tension and the fear of that. And I love this place of responsibility to the students, because as you've shown me, it's not just a teaching relationship. It's a personal development. It's an encouragement. There's a much broader action happening within your music studios. So, what were some of those challenges and those fears, and really, how did you get through them? Because through your story, you moved this through very quickly from awfulness to beauty in a matter of months, which is not common.
Yeah, I recognize that, and I guess there were a lot of things, seen and unseen on my side. I don't know how else to say it. I had a mentor who said something to me that was so profound, it stayed with me every day for years, and she said, "Nothing falls into your lap for no reason."
Mhm.
And this was one of those situations where things started, quote, falling into my lap, and I had to trust that there was a reason for that, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. So, like I said, one of the challenges was not being able to find a space that fit my needs. Um, and then the other challenge was, it became finances. It became like, okay, well, if you can't just slide into another, space that's already made for you, it looks like you're going to have to make one. You're going to have to make a space where you fit. And so I just started reaching out to people who knew about things that I know absolutely nothing about, like real estate and accounting. I've never owned a business, really, um, like this before. I teach music, I play music. This is outside of my areas of expertise. So got hooked up with someone who knew about commercial real estate, and they just so happened to have a building available that was right in the price range that I figured out I could afford. And so at that time, I think it was July, that the tenant was moving out. The tenant was in there, and July was my month off. And that was one of those nothing falls into your lap for no reason moments. Like, this is lining up for you. Go with it. So I was to begin teaching in August. That I did that there's not a lot of time there. Um, so I just said, okay, let's sign this lease. Let's go. And I just dove in with both feet, not really knowing how it was going to work out. But what I did know is that I was going to make it work out,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yep, signed the lease. And on two other instructors from my previous location actually decided to come with me. They thought that what happened over there was not acceptable to them or to anyone or to me, and so they said, we want to join you. And so that took an enormous financial burden off of, because I was going to be paying for this by myself. Like I said, I'm going to make it work. I got to do this. And then something else fell into my lap. So I had to, okay, all right, there's a reason for this. I'm going to go with it. And so now two of them came over with me. And then I had help from the community. I had help from my students' families. Everyone came together
Mm.
in light of what happened. It was really beautiful to see people who seemingly were not affected, but they were. They were affected because I was affected, and I think it showed them that it mattered. I think it really showed everyone around that when one of us, I mean, people, when one of us is getting hurt or attacked or something, that it really does affect each and every one of us that are nearby. So they came together. Some people donated money, some people donated equipment. It was quite awesome. So with all of that support, we were really able to launch. We had a window of 4 days from when the old tenant was leaving and when lessons would start. And I was at the Great Rhythm Revival. So there was a very short window that we could move everything in and get it done, and everyone just came together. I had people calling me, showing up. Can I help move things? In this 4 days that we put everything up, and we did it.
Yeah. That I love the advice that you got. And a lot of people turn away from or run from adversity. No one welcomes it, but when it comes, you followed your heart, your passion, and your beliefs, which I think is really hard to stop in any scenario. And that adversity really builds the strength, and wonderful for the community, for friends popping out of the woodwork. I know you had to not only fill the space and get ready, but you had to source all the instruments, and having all that stuff come together in such a short period of time is nothing short of amazing. Now you're in Empowered, and let's talk about Empowered. Like, first off, let's start about the vision and the underlying, because it is much broader than just teaching kids how to play an instrument.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. Kids and adults too. That's part of it. A greater part of it as well. That it's anyone, regardless of your perceived musical ability. I kind of made it an important point to say perceived, because a lot of people, might think they don't have musical ability, but I believe it's in each and every one of us. So anyone, regardless of that perceived ability, can, get started, can keep going, and they can get better, and they're gonna have fun doing it. So that's like my main mission every day when I walk in the classroom. I think of that anyone can do this, and we're definitely gonna have fun. So and by anyone, I really do mean anyone, and especially folks that have had challenges that have kept them from pursuing music, whatever those challenges might be. They could be societal challenges, they could be personal, internal challenges. And we really want to make an example of, I thought I couldn't do this. We really want to make examples of those each and every day. So I work with a lot of people who've got, tons of anxiety. I work with people who've got physical, mental disabilities, ADHD, autism spectrum, Parkinson's, and then just kind of general depression, people that just have like things that are like would stop them, in any other circumstance. And if it's not fun, they're not going to want to keep coming back. And that's the piece that allows us, the getting started part is sometimes easy. The keeping going part is this big hump in the middle. That's where we do the most work to keep people engaged, keep people involved, because that's how we actually get to the part where, over that hump, that you're having a ton of fun playing an instrument.
So the identifying someone's perceived musical ability is fabulous, because we all have that self-limiting belief. I'll just share my personal story. See my drum behind me. Well, a couple years ago, I was invited to the first drum circle, and I'm like, I do not have any rhythm at all. And I went, and you know what? It didn't matter. The drum circle itself brought out that excitement. I'm like, well, I'm terrible, but I'm having a lot of fun, and just stuck with it. And it was because of that environment of, one, it was exploration, it was creativity, there was a safety, and there was a laughter around it. So the ability to show that to kids, to get them out, breaks down that barrier. And also, I think in our earlier conversations, you Seeing kids who might be marginalized or underserved, when they see someone else that looks or feels or sounds like them, it's got to bring them forward in giving them that confidence to step up and try something new. Now, one of the things I loved about what you're doing, not only from the inclusiveness and the fun in the teaching, here we talk a lot about business as well. And you created a wonderful model on how you treat your students and parents from almost a subscription basis. And if you want to talk a little bit about how your studio handles individual and group lessons, I think it's fascinating and really, really welcoming and easy for people to step into.
Yeah, great question. Music lessons business is, at least around here, there's a standard of a studio fee where teachers will pay by the time slot that they teach. And we normally teach in half-hour increments. So if you have 30, 40 students and you're counting up half hours each week, it becomes really tedious. And then also you've got to do hours of that work on paper, and then you have to relay that to each and every one of your, however many students you have. That could be 10 students, but it could be 40. So this is a very time consuming, very tedious thing. And I just thought, why? Maybe we can simplify this, because the easier it is, it's just like teaching the instrument. The easier it is and the more fun we're having, the more we're going to do it. Not that paying for lessons is always like the most fun thing, but you get what, the more ease with which we have it, the more likely they are to do it. And so, I just decided, why don't we simplify this? I'm just going to take all the lessons that I teach per year, divide that, multiply that by my current rate, divide it by how many weeks I'm there. And we have an average that we can go subscription each month. So basically how it works is they have a flat rate each month, and whether the calendar spits out 4 or 5 weeks for them that month, it's the same price every single month. Nobody has to think about it or contact me every month. It's just there, and it's all laid out and very easy to follow.
Yeah, that's to me, it's brilliant. As a parent who had a son who tried a music lesson once, it was, okay, how many are you going? If you just know what it is, oh, that's easy. That's in the budget. That's great. Now you've been in, so your student base has grown and your teacher base is expanding as well.
Yeah, we have 5 teachers now, total, including myself, teaching a variety of different instruments. We've got guitar, drums, voice, piano, flute, trumpet, and actually even mixing, audio engineering covered through our 5 teachers.
So the school's been welcomed in the community, and how is it being seen? How's it getting out to the community?
Great question. So I play drums for a band, and my bandmates are really, really supportive, and they're behind my model. They're behind everything that we're doing at Empowered. And so we had this collaborative idea that maybe on some of our gigs, we could invite some students to sit in with us. And this has been a really exciting, I think it's one of the most exciting parts and one of the most engaging parts of our program, that the students get mentors in the music industry, just like I did when I was young. So we have them learn a song from usually one of our original tunes, actually, which is pretty impressive for these students. And we invite them to come sit in with us on the gig. And what this does is it gets the student up on a stage in an atmosphere where maybe they thought they would never be. So getting the students on stage, they're contributing to visibility. They're actually, in a way, they're giving back without even knowing it. I'm getting up on stage, and I'm out in the LGBT community. I've been out for a long time, and I think visibility is super important, whether it's, trans visibility or any other kind of marginalized community. If we're not seeing folks that look like us doing the things that we want to do, we're going to be less likely to get out there and try them. So, my getting up on stage and being an example for my students is great. That gets them up on stage, and now they're actually inadvertently an example to other students. And it's a really beautiful process of giving back. So I often will ask students who think that they're ready, or maybe they're questioning. I try to get to the ones that are, maybe they're a little anxious about it, and try to build that confidence in them, because maybe they've never seen anyone that looks like them get up there and do it. So they're hesitant. So we work on confidence building. We work on stage performance techniques in the classroom. And then when it comes time to do it, they get out there and they get up on stage and they conquer their fears.
So I imagine with these performances and giving the kids this chance to be on the stage to gain that confidence, there's got to be some just heartwarming stories from them, their parents, or friends. Any that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'm remembering one of our student performances that was completely unplanned at our grand opening. So tons of people showed up to this event. We had a big stage set up, nice big audience, big PA system. It was the real deal. And one of our students who is autistic and has never performed in front of an audience before on the drums, um, decided that was the day. So his mom came up to me in the middle of another performance, and she said, "Hey, he wants to play." And I think we were all very surprised. And without any hesitation, all right, he's next. Let's go. And he came out, and without saying a word to anyone, he sits down behind the drums. He had his laptop with him, press play on the laptop speakers on the song, and he wanted to play a Police song. And I think it was Roxanne. And you can faintly hear Roxanne like coming from this kid's laptop speaker. I say kid, I think he might be 18 now. Coming from his laptop speakers, and he hit every groove, every backbeat, every drum fill. It was epic. And the entire audience that was there, I don't think anyone said anything the whole time he was playing. They were just watching him, and it was just one of the coolest moments.
Well, I can feel that. That's beautiful. That's the work that you're doing, Danny. That's absolutely beautiful. Now, what's next? I hear that you've been recognized for what you're doing, and talk a little bit about what's next and how people can support you in your mission.
Sure. Yeah. I applied to a program called the Own It program that is run by the NGLCC. And it is an entrepreneurship development program for trans-owned businesses, or newly trans-owned businesses, or aspiring businesses. And so I applied, I got in, and I went through this 8-week program. And at the end of that 8-week program, the NGLCC helps you get, which is the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, they help you get certified as an LGBT-owned business through their organization.
Wonderful. Congrats.
Thank you.
Now, I would imagine that's probably new and one of the few businesses in the area or in the state where you're at.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of research on that, and I could not find any other businesses like me that are certified LGBT owned. So it might be a new thing. Visibility is kind of funny like that. Like you're not sure if you're the only one. Some folks that might not be out. But yes, to be certified, it looks like we might be the first or one of the first.
Well, it's no surprise that you're cutting the path and showing the example for others. So congratulations. Now, if people are interested in supporting empowered music, how can they find you? What are the two options or couple options that you have for support?
Yeah, we are looking for support in a couple different ways. We would love to develop our scholarship program again. We had a scholarship program for folks that want to take either lessons or workshops and might be experiencing some financial hardship. Maybe they're current students or new students. It doesn't matter. We want to have a scholarship fund that would help pay for them at a reduced or removed cost for a temporary, time if they need it. And to do that, they can go to our website. It's empoweredmusicpa.com, and they'll find a donate to our scholarship fund link specifically for that scholarship program if they're interested in supporting that way. And then just in general, to support our mission and really sponsor our programs, we have ongoing support through Patreon. We actually just had our very first open mic. It was a Patreon sponsored open mic. And what a cool event. It was fantastic. We had someone say that, what did she say? She said, I never danced at an open mic before. And another performance, she actually played piano for the first time in front of people that night at our open mic. And that whole entire event was made possible because of our Patreon subscriptions. And so that link is also on our support us page on our website. And they can also just go to patreon.com/empoweredmusic to make an ongoing donation that way.
Okay. And that the money that you raise through your Patreon, that is for the school itself, for equipment. What's that supporting?
Great question. That's going to go to support programs, and or like anything left over would go toward any equipment that we might need. At the moment, we actually don't need any equipment, so that's going to go straight into programming right now. So that's going to go to pay for any facilitators that want to come in and do group workshops, any wellness workshops. That's going to go to pay the person who hosts the open mic, etc.
Great. And if someone wants to reach out and just donate directly, they can contact you through the website if they're interested in doing that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dani, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you, and I appreciate knowing you these last couple of years. You are an inspiration, and congratulations on all you pulled together. While we close up here, any final words for the audience or young students out there looking to get into music, or old students even?
Yeah, anyone. That's the thing. It's there's never a right time or a bad time or a wrong time or a great time. We've got right now. And so if you're thinking about trying something new, anything new, really, if it's music, or trying something old, maybe you used to play, maybe you want to rekindle that just getting your foot in the door any way that you can, that getting started. Right? Get started, keep going, get better, and try it. Trust yourself. That thought didn't fall into your lap for no reason.
There you go. Well, thank you, Dani. Best wishes for everything, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Great Things LLC podcast. If you did, be sure to share the link with this episode with your friends. And share it to your social media with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Great Things LLC. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. There's so much more to come. You can support me by leaving a rating and a review of the show, and that will help others to find their purpose, dream, collaborate, and create their own success story. Until next time, this is Josh Meter, your host, signing off.